Alice in Chains is one of the 4 bands of the grunge movement of the 90s, also known as the Seattle Sounds, founded in 1987 by Jerry Cantrell, Sean Kinney, Lenny Staley, and Mike Starr. But today I want to talk specifically about the album Dirt because I think it's their best work and it represents perfectly the sound of the band. Hi Fio, my name is Gianluca, welcome back to the channel, and let's divide this video in 3 chapters: arrangement and style, lyrics, and a brief talk about the players. Let's begin with arrangement and style, starting out with Them Bones. What a wonderful way to open up an album. These screams grab your attention right away and even scare the shit out of you, to be completely honest. The original one, mine are a little bit weaker because I'm not him. His voice is like no one else, in my opinion. And if your first riff is a 7/4, you got me no matter what. Let me show you the genius behind this song. First of all, the riff is a chromatic ascending line from C sharp to E. Nothing fancy. Okay, and the vocals are harmonized in perfect 4. C sharp, G sharp. And all together they create weird and wonderful sounding chords. I believe them bones are me. Which are C sharp, a power chord, okay, C sharp power chord, D Lydian major 7, E flat minor 7 sus4, what a fancy name, and E major 6, which is a fancier way to call C sharp minor in second inversion, because we got C sharp, G sharp, E. And all these dissonant chords really represent the darkness of the tune. And stick around because later on I will talk about the lyrics of this song. And if you thought that the screams are heavy and scary, you're not prepared for what is coming. But let's move on to another song. And now let's listen to the intro and first verse of the song, Wood. Bass riff is weird, but it carries the groove for the entirety of the song. It is really something else, in my opinion. And then the drum here are the representation of what it means to serve the song. Starting off with a unison with the cymbal and the bass to just feel the higher end of the mix, because the bass covered, of course, the low end, and the shivery icing high edge to it really feels the mix perfectly. And then when the guitar enter in, they are responsible for mid-range and high range, the drum switches to a more tribal tom groove to support the low end. And then when the vocal enter, it almost disappears to play a simple kick and snare pattern with this 16 ostinato on an open hi-hat, which is something weird. You don't hear it very often, in my opinion, that function as a tambourine or a shaker of some sort, but for heavy metal music, a shaker is a silly option, in my opinion. If you thought that grunge was only Smell Like Teen Spirit, okay, you are fundamentally wrong. Because grunge is a genre of music influenced by all music, for real. And I highly suggest you to dig deeper into it. This intro got me at the first listen, because I'm a sucker for minor harmonic and Frisian vibe, Middle Eastern, you know. And this pair of guitar played with wah-wah and a shitload amount of fuzz are playing the perfect embodiment of Frisian dominant mode. Played in unison and harmony with the vocal. Man, you got me. You got me. You really got me. Okay. Now let's talk about lyrics. Most of the lyrics are inspired by the drug addiction and fragile mental state of the singer, but even for more personal experience. Let's start with the first verse of the title track, Dirt.
I have never felt such frustration or lack of self-control. I want you to kill me and dig me under. I want to live no more.
I have never felt such frustration and lack of self-control. I want you to kill me, to dig me under. I want to live no more. For what I understood about these lyrics is that this is a letter to Lenne's drug addiction to finally set him free by giving him the gift of death. But not a growing old with dogs and family type of death, more of a really violent and raw type of death. Because later on during the verses and the chorus, he said things like, I want to feel the taste of a pistol in my mouth, on my tongue. I want you to scrape me from the wall. Something really graphic and raw. And it is a common characteristic between all the Alice in Chains lyrics of this album. These are really raw and graphic type of lyrics. They are not afraid of saying things like they are. And talking about fragile mental state and death in general, let's take a look at the chorus from Them Bones, my favorite song of the album.
I feel so alone, gone and down a big old pile of them bones.
I feel so alone, I'm gonna end up in a big old pile of them bones. This is a man that the only thing that he's seeing is death in his future. Like if he has lost all hopes, because in the verses he said things like, I believe them bones are me. Sold you, bad dreams come true. Again, he was seeing his future and it was not such a bright future. And that perfectly represents the drug addiction, the mental state. And even because 10 years after the release of this album, he was found dead by heroin overdose, if I remember correctly. And now let's take a look at the second verse of the song Brewster, inspired by Jerry's Cantrell's father experiencing war.
Walking tall, machine gun man. They spit on me in my homeland. Glorious, send me pictures of my boy. Got my pill against mosquito death. My body breathing in dying breath. Oh God, please, would you help me make it through?
This is not only a representation of war itself, how it feels, how it is, but also he is trying to tell us the regret of a father going to war instead of being home with his family. With words like, Gloria sent me a picture of my boys, Green Army was not a safe bet. And I don't know you, but when I'm listening and reading these lyrics, I can really imagine myself inside of a trench, inside of the trenches, smelling death and misery all around me. And now let's talk about the player. But because I'm a guitar player and bass player, I will talk more deeply about Jerry Cantrell and Mike Starr, even gear and sounds. But let's start with drum. The drummer is Sean Kinney, and because I'm not a drummer, I asked my best friend Giacomo, which is an incredible drummer, really devoted to the grunge movement from Italy, to describe me his style and playing in a nutshell. He describes it as a more tribal approach to drumming pointed to serve the song. Because if you really listen to all the Alice in Chains discography, you don't hear flashy feel, flashy stuff. You only hear the right part for the right song. It really is the representation of what a good drummer should do. Let's listen again to the intro and first verse of Wood so you can understand even better. Again, here is only feeling the sonic landscape of the mix and supporting the role and make the other shine. Like at the beginning, there's the bass, which is the main character, and you just feel the high end. And then when the guitar enter, which is responsible for the mid and high range, he helped the bass with this really cool, almost in unison tom groove, which is a really tribal kind of groove in my opinion. And then when the vocals start, which are the main character of the song, it just disappear, almost kick, a snare, a little bit of hi-hat, and let them be the main character. By the way, for recreating his sound and tones, I was using GGD drum with the pack Invasion. And man, they sound good. They are not sponsoring the video. But GGD, if you want, I'm here. I'm using your product since 2020, just right after COVID. They are fantastic. So if you want to sponsor the video, I'm more than happy. Now let's talk about Lenny Stelling vocals. Man, we lost one of the best vocalists of the last 30 years. He was unique. His style was really, really something else. I don't want to talk about technically because I'm new to vocals. I just started studying 2 years ago. And singing like him without proper training and proper advice can really hurt yourself. So if you want to sing like him, go to a teacher and be careful. I don't give a fuck about myself, so I'm trying to imitate him with a little bit of risk. But I don't care, okay? I really love his style. I wanted to incorporate his style in my style of singing. What I want to point out about his style is that you gotta keep in mind that this man, in my opinion, lost all hope for his life. He was feeling death really close to him. He was desperate for salvation. Not a good type of salvation, again. Just listen to the song Dirt. He was asking to be killed, basically. And his raw, raspy, distorted voice really represented feeling. And sometimes if he forced his voice, almost if he's like out of breath, it is really, really, really something else. And I highly challenge you to not shit in your pants while listening to the song Dirt in its entirety, reading through the lyrics, and keep and pay really close attention to the way that he used his voice. Because in that song particularly, is another instrument. It's not only a man that is singing. It's you can think of it as another guitar or another melodic type of instrument. And now let's move on to a more in-depth talk about gear and style of Jerry Cantrell and Mike Starr. Let's talk about Mike Starr gear and sound. First of all, almost all the Alice in Chains tunes are tuned an half step down, so in E flat. And at the end of the day, he was using, for real, 2 to 3 sound. A really clean, deep sound. Alternating between finger and pick. And a more more saturated version of this, like in the bass riff for Wood. And because of the 90s, of course, a little bit of modulation, chorus or flange. But think of it as a post-production thing rather than its main component for its sound. If you have the chance to listen to the Dan Bones isolated bass track, you will notice a little bit of flange to add movement to the sound. This is without. And this is with. Just to give a little bit of something, a little bit more depth to the sound. Gear-wise, it was using Spectre basses with a PJ configuration, and here today I have my Yamaha, which is a PJ, so I'm almost in the same ballpark. Even Yamaha and Spectre are two different beasts. Amp-wise, it was using Ampeg SV2 and an 8x10, typically again by Ampeg. So here I'm using an emulation of an SVT head with an 8x10 Ampeg cabinet. That sounds like this. This is the clean. And then the same amp but with the gain almost at 100% because I like it. Let's talk about Jerry Cantrell gear and sounds. At the end of the day, he's using 2 to 3 sound, like Mike Starr. A cleanish sound with added modulation at times, like in Wood. And for his rhythm tone, an over-the-top, Marshall-oriented sound, like this. Again, for this lead, he's going for a little bit of ambience, a little bit of modulation here and there because of the 90s. But at the end of the day, two really beautiful sound. And gear-wise, nowadays, he's using his Gibson Custom Shop Les Paul Wino, which is stunning, is beautiful. Look at this, is amazing. And his Friedman signature amp, which is a modern and modded version of a JCM 800. So for this cover, I was going through an emulation of a GCM 800, okay? This clean sound, which is a little bit cranked. And the same JCM emulation, but the gain knob is on full. And for mixing purposes, I was alternating between a Marshall cab and a Mesa cab just to find the right one for the song. That's it for today's video. I highly suggest you to check the band, starting off with the album Dirt, because again, I think it's their perfect work and it perfect represent the band. But even the other album are work of art. Again, my name is Gianluca. I'm a guitar player, singer and songwriter from Italy, and every week I explore sounds and bundles of music here on YouTube. So if you like this kind of shit, subscribe to the channel, you have no excuse. And also, if you want to support the channel even more, there's a PayPal link in the description. And until next time, remember, you're lucky, my man.